Hello everyone, my name is Emily Spangler and I'll be doing my North American Geography project on Acadia National Park, which is in Maine and in the Atlantic Periphery region of the U.S. I chose Acadia National Park because of its natural beauty and endless outdoor resources. I love everything outdoors, so this national park seemed to be a good fit because there are so many hiking trails, camping sites, and beaches and lakes to see. The history behind Acadia National Park is quite fascinating. Around 5,000 years ago, the land was inhabited by Wabanaki Native Americans. They hunted fish, collected berries, and used other edible items such as plants to survive. No one knows the first interaction between the Native Americans and Europeans, but the first recorded evidence comes from a Frenchman, Samuel Champlain, on September 5th, 1604. He led the expedition that landed on what is known today as Mount Desert Island. In 1613, the French were about to establish residency when the British came in and destroyed their plans. For the next 150 years, the British finally ended French domain in Acadia in 1759. Throughout the 1800s, the land of Acadia was primarily used for fishing and logging. By 1913, 6,000 acres of Acadia was preserved for the perpetual use of the public and was named Sieur Desmont's National Monument 3 years later by President Wilson. He changed the name to Lafayette National Park after signing the Hannock County Trustees of Public Reservations, which made the area a national park. Finally, in 1929, the area got the name we all know today, Acadia National Park. Tourism grew tremendously through the 1900s. The wealthiest people had estates in Acadia until World War II, when many could no longer afford such luxuries, and many of the estates were burned by fire in 1947. That destroyed some 17,188 acres of the park. Today, Acadia National Park has grown to protect 49,600 acres. Acadia National Park is separated into three sections: Mount Desert Island, Azuaha, and Scuda Point. The majority of beaches in Acadia are rocky, but there are some with sand, like Sand Beach, that's the largest. The coast and shorelines began rising after glaciers fled north about 15,000 years ago. Now you'll see solid rocky coasts and shorelines. The park is filled with forests and woodlands that houses trees such as oak, maple, beech, and other hardwoods. Acadia contains ridges of granite that were sculpted by glaciers measuring about 9,000 feet thick. These glaciers created broad U-shaped valleys that hold lakes, potholes, kettle ponds, and other features. The rocky shores of Acadia National Park are covered with intertidal flora and fauna that are covered 2 times a day. During the lower tides, pools of water are formed inhabiting various plants and marine life. There are 14 great ponds which serve as local water supplies and 14 smaller ponds around the park. There are 20 mountains in Acadia National Park, and the highest of these is Cadillac at 1,530 feet and is the highest point along the North Atlantic seaboard. More than 20% of this national park is classified as wetland and form the transition between terrestrial and aquatic environments that contribute to a biodiverse habitat for the wildlife in the park. Acadia National Park provides research and educational opportunities for the community. The College of the Atlantic does a lot of research like biomedical and agricultural research inside of the park. Also, the Scudic Institute at Acadia National Park is an independent nonprofit organization that wants to advance the ecosystem by providing presentations to the community and outdoor experiences within the park. Around 80% of all revenue around Acadia is based off of the tourism of about 3 million people each year. Acadia National Park is also funded by Friends of Acadia National Park Service and donations from anyone willing to donate. Although Acadia used to be all about fishing, hunting, and logging, today it's known for almost any outdoor activity you can think of. The park has around 120 miles of hiking and biking trails, a 27-mile-long auto route, and 50 miles of carriage roads. There is also an additional 18 miles of hiking trails on Azul al-Hal. Because there are several campgrounds in the park, many guests love to go camping and take advantage of boating in the lakes and ponds nearby. Boating excursions are also popular because of the harbor, seals, whales, and other marine life that can be spotted off the coast. In the winter, there is an average of 60 inches of snowfall, so skiing, snowboarding, and other winter sports are common in Acadia National Park. Like I mentioned before, research and education is a big part of the park to educate and learn more about the ecosystem and other aspects of the area. Acadia National Park is covered by Class 1 of the Clean Air Act to ensure that the air is as pure as it can be, but it is number 6 for most parks harmed by air pollution according to the National Parks Conservation Association. The park is downwind from large urban and industrial areas of southern and western Maine, so it gets a lot of air pollution from the burning coal, incineration of waste, chemicals, etc. This pollution in the air is affecting the mercury levels in the area, which means it's accumulating in the tissues of organisms and affecting all of the food chains in the park. This elevation of mercury has led to an increase in mercury so high that it's above the safe consumption for humans. So these levels aren't only endangering the wildlife of Acadia National Park, but also humans that enter the park. Thank you for listening, and I hope you learned a lot about Acadia National Park. Here are the resources I used for this project, and here are the resources that I used for the pictures.